What really happened when Suleiman Carrim started questioning the payments linked to Hangwani Maumela and Matlala? Was it just another government contract, or something far bigger hiding behind the numbers? As shocking details begin to surface, the trail of money raises serious questions. Who approved the payments? Where did the 56 million go? And why are these names now at the center of a growing corruption storm? The answers may change everything.
On page 6 of the evidence bundle at the foot of the page, you see that on the 4th of February 2025, Mr. Matlala WhatsApps you a proof of payment, and that proof of payment is at page 36 of the bundle. It's the 1.5 million payment from Medicare to Tamiz.
Yes.
If you can then go to page 535, you will see that 7 seconds after Mr. Matlala sent you proof of payment to Tamiz, he sends the same proof of payment to Mr. Morgan Maumela.
Correct.
And that proof of payment that he sends to Mr. Maumela is at page 537.
5.
If we go back to page 7, 537, sorry, 537. It's the same proof of payment. This time it was sent to Mr. Maumela.
Yes.
If you go back to page 7, you'll see that at 15:13:31, this is another 12 seconds after the proof of payment has been sent to Mr. Maumela, Mr. Matlala calls you.
Yes.
What was he calling about?
Which page is that, Counsel? 7, page 7.
On page 7, yes. At 15:13:31. He's just given you proof of payment, you've acknowledged receipt of the proof of payment, and then he calls you. Do you remember what he called you about?
Yes.
What would he call you about?
He called me and asked me, well, before this, he'd already engaged me to advance some monies to Mr. Morgan Maumela on his behalf.
To advance monies to Mr. Morgan Maumela?
On his behalf, yes.
On his behalf?
Yes.
Now, by this stage, you had been worried for quite some time that you weren't being paid on this contract.
Yes, that's correct.
Why did you agree to take a third of your first payment and give it to Mr. Maumela on behalf of Mr. Matlala?
The reason for that, Mr. Matlala kept on putting pressure on me to please advance this money to Morgan. I did ask him, why can't he do it directly? He said, please do it on my behalf, and on my next payment, I'll reimburse you. And at that time, we had quite a bit of payments that still needed to go into the system. So I needed to keep Mr. Matlala happy. At the same time, knowing that there's more payments coming in, I then agreed to advance this money to Mr. Maumela.
So although by this stage you were already worried about, Mr. Carrim, we were on page 7 of the evidence bundle, and just to recap for context, Mr. Matlala had sent you proof of payment of 1.5 million from Medicare to Tamiz.
Correct.
You had acknowledged receipt. There was a call from Mr. Matlala to you, and then you responded in a text at 15:17 on the 4th of February, Morgan sorted. And you confirmed that the Morgan to whom you were referring was Mr. Mamela.
Correct.
How long have you been on first name terms with Mr. Mamela?
Around about 2021, Counsel, my son and myself were looking for a house in Johannesburg. We found an estate agent, and I was in Mafikeng at the time. My son saw the house, my wife saw the house. only to find this was Mr. Maumela's house in 2021. We bought it through an estate agent. In 2021, around November, December, we bought this house. I didn't meet Mr. Maumela at that time. He met with my family. I was still in Mafikeng. So for that time, we didn't meet. In about February 2022, there were some issues with the house, and there's a lot of things that needed some work, and he obviously knew who the people who were dealing, obviously the contractors and the home entertainment center, the home entertainment system. We then reached out. Mr. Maumela came to the house. That was the first time I met him. He introduced himself. At that time, just introduced himself as Mr. Morgan Maumela. I then explained to him what the challenges with the house were. He was quite friendly and gentleman, and we then started engaging. He started helping me with the house, fixing up the repairs, sorting me out. And in that, we became friends from about 2022.
And have you had any business dealings with Mr. Maumela since you became friends?
Yeah, there were a few that we had some deals that were supposed to happen.
That were supposed to happen? Oh.
Yes, there was a deal that was supposed to take place.
And what did that deal concern?
It was into a mining operation, and a wash plant and a crushing plant with chrome.
And now, when you said Morgan sorted, you were referring to a payment of 500,000 rands for the benefit of Mr. Maumela.
That's right.
And that payment was to Lutaga Trading Enterprise.
That's right.
Who asked you to pay Mr. Maumela?
Mr. Matlala.
And who asked you to pay Mr. Maumela through Lutaga Trading Enterprise?
Mr. Maumela.
Mr. Mamela asked you to pay Lutaga Trading Enterprise?
Yes.
When did you speak to Mr. Maumela to receive that instruction?
It was before we got that payment. He'd already been talking to me, saying that he has spoken to Mr. Matlala, and that he asked Mr. Matlala that Mr. Matlala needs to pay him his money, and Mr. Matlala said to him, he's busy talking to me.
And so, when were these conversations that you had with Mr. Maumela?
So sometime just before the payments, Feb. It's a few days before the payment.
And he said to you, Mr. Matlala owes me money.
Mr. Matlala approached me and said, look, I need you to pay Mr. Maumela. He wanted me to pay him a big amount, and I said, how do I pay him half of this money? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, you're not paying me, but now you want me to pay 750 of this money. He says, no, Mr. Maumela needs the money, can you do this? I said, look, I can't do 750. And I then agreed to do 500 because we knew that there were more invoices coming, or he knew, I should say. Let me rephrase that. Mr. Matlala said to me, there's more invoices that are still owed to him, and then he will then top me up on the next payment. But in total, he wanted me to give Mr. Maumela 750,000.
So he wanted you to pay Mr. Maumela 750,000. Although you didn't have to pay Mr. Maumela anything, you agreed to pay 500,000.
Yes, at that time, I needed to keep, like I said, I needed to keep Kat happy, and I needed to make sure that on the next payment, I get another payment. So that was what I was looking to do. Keep Mr. Matlala happy, pacify him. I didn't want to make the payment, but he insisted, he asked me, please. So I thought, if I don't do this payment, I might not get a payment on the next one.
And you said Mr. Maumela said that the payment should go to Lutaga.
Yes.
And when did he say that?
It was just after we got paid.
Just after you got paid?
Yeah.
So you got paid or you received proof of payment at 15:13 on the 4th of February, and at 15:17:21 you texted back, Morgan sorted. So did you call Mr. Maumela in those 4 minutes after you received proof of payment?
No, he knew the payment was in. Mr. Matlala informed him that the payment was in.
Yes, but he only informed Mr. Maumela at 15:13.
Which document are you referring to, counsel?
If you go to page 535.
It's flagged as what, Mr. Chancellor?
At 535, you see that the proof of payment is emailed from Mr. Matlala to Mr. Maumela at 15:13:19.
Yes.
A couple of seconds after, 7 seconds after it's emailed to you, WhatsApp to you.
Yes.
So between your receiving the proof of payment at 15:13:12 and your text to Mr. Matlala at 15:17 saying Morgan sorted, if you only called Mr. Maumela after you received proof of payment, then it would have had to have been in those 4 minutes.
Counsel, I said after we received payment from SAPS.
After you received payment from SAPS?
After Mr. Matlala received payment from SAPS, not me. After Mr. Matlala received his payment from SAPS.
Yes, but he received his payment from SAPS. If we go back to that payment screen, I think it was on the 4th of February was when payment was going to materialize. We can just...
I think it was on the 31st, somewhere there.
No, that's when the payment was processed. It arrived. So if you go back to that screen...
What page is that, counsel?
It is page 6 of the evidence bundle.
File 1.
File 1, page 6. You see straddling pages 5 and 6, there's the screen, which has 2 dates. The one date is when payment is processed, and the other date is, I think, is when it's going to be deposited in an account, 31st January, 4th of February. But underneath, Mr. Matlala says, confirmed all chicks to be delivered 4 February tomorrow inshallah, and you say, sure, brother.
Yes, the payment reflected on midnight of the 4th.
Midnight of the 4th.
Yes.
So you then, at some stage, called Mr. Maumela to say, I'm ready to pay you.
Mr. Matlala informed him that he's going to be paid on that day. And that's when Mr. Maumela made contact and told me to pay him.
Yes, but I'm interested in when you spoke to him because...
It was in the day, like I said, after the payment.
Yes, and if I understood your evidence correctly, he was the one who said, don't pay me personally, pay Lutaga.
That was his instruction.
Right, and it came from him in a call on the 4th.
That's correct.
Now, this was not your first payment to Lutaga. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if we go to page 499, and that's the bundle 2, file 2 of the evidence bundle.
Yes.
You'll see that between December 2023 and November 2024, Ziggy paid Lutaga 42,427,540, and prior to, over the period August 2024 to March 2025, Tamiz paid Lutaga 3,250,000.
Which 750 was from Mr. Matlala.
750 are these two Matlala payments?
Yes.
Yes. So the net payment from Tamiz to Lutaga was 2.5 million.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairperson, to assist with the transcription, can you just Lutaga's name, just spell it for the record?
Luthaga, Trading Enterprise. Now, why did Ziggy pay Lutaga 42,427,000 over the period December 2023 to November 2024?
Can I elaborate on that, counsel? Can I elaborate?
Can you?
Elaborate, can I?
Please do.
Like I said, I met Mr. Maumela in 2022. We did a lot of work on my house together. We became friendly. Mr. Maumela was a gentleman. He was very helpful. Subsequent to that, we became friends. In about 2023, I was discussing a business idea with him going into a mining project, into a wash plant and a crusher plant with a mine. That was the idea that I had, which I shared with him. Mr. Maumela was quite keen on investing with me, and I said to him, okay, it's fine. If it makes sense and you feel it's good for you, we can go ahead and do this transaction. I then presented a business proposal to him. We then agreed we'll call this vehicle Chrome Core. So the vehicle was going to be called Chrome Core, and one of my entities would own 50% of it, and one of his entities would own 50% of the vehicle. We needed to raise money because obviously mining is quite cash intensive and it needs a lot of cash to operate. We then agreed we'd both each raise 50 million and 5 million capital. We agreed on that. Mr. Maumela then said to me, I said to him, look, I will raise my part, you go and raise your part. I then asked him, because he was taking a bit of time and I wanted to move with the project because this was my idea. He then said to me, he's going to sell an asset. Once he sells the asset, he'd be able to fund the project. I said, that's fine for me. How much time will it take? He gave me some timelines. And then subsequent to that, he had sold this asset. He then said to me the monies are going to be transferred into a lawyer's trust account. I don't know the name of the lawyer at that time. And then because Chromco was new and we didn't have a bank account, those monies will then be brought into Ziggy as his part of the project.
Sorry. Chromco didn't have a bank account because it's new.
We were still in the process.
So the money that he makes from selling the asset is going to be paid over to Ziggy?
Yeah, it's going to come in as a loan into Ziggy.
And when was this?
This was happening in 2023, around, I should say, we started talking from about August, October, November. It was quite intensive because there was a lot of meetings, a lot of work. We needed to do a lot of presentations because it was a big amount of money for both parties. So we had to discuss it extensively.
But I still need to understand why Ziggy paid Lutaga 35 million in December 2020.
I'm getting to that, counsel. So once the money got transferred to the lawyer's trust account, the money came to me. I was overjoyed now because I could start the project. Because
And what was the amount of money that came in, the full 50 million?
It was close to about 56, if I'm not mistaken, 56 million.
And just to clarify, that was 56 million that Mr. Maumela paid into the trust account? Or was 56 million?
He just said to me it was the sale of an asset. I don't know.
No, but you said once the money came in. The money that came in was Mr. Maumela's money. It wasn't your joint contributions.
No. That was his money.
And you estimate that amount at 56 million?
It was 56 million and some odd, yes.
Yes.
Subsequent to me receiving the funds, Mr. Maumela then approaches me and tells me that he's got challenges with his current house. He's paying penalties and he's losing R1 million a month on penalties with contractors. So if he could please take some of his money and complete his house, and then he'd bring back the funds so that he could continue with the project. For me, it was a slap in the face because I had committed. I needed to move with the project. I'd made commitments. Now Mr. Maumela is he's telling me he needs to pull out of the deal. He needs to finish his house. It was his money, so he then asked for a refund and said once he's okay, he'll bring the money back. He then instructed me to pay these monies to Lutaga. And then I said to him, look, Mr. Maumela, you're in breach of contract now. I mean, I've committed. The project needs to start. You're now taking your funds. He said, no, I'll come back. I'll make a plan. The monies will come. I'm going to sell this. I'm going to sell that. And I had to refund that money.
So you said you pointed out to him he was in breach of contract. Were there written contracts in relation to this venture?
We had a two-pager that we drew up on that, but we shook hands on the 56, and we said, look, once the assets are bought, we'll then draw up a formal agreement. Once we buy the assets, once we put up the wash plant, once we put up the crusher, and once I bring the plant, the actual yellow metal will then draw up an agreement.
And did you have any lawyers involved at this stage of proceedings?
No, it was just me and Mr. Maumela for now.
And do you have a copy of that two-pager?
I'll have to check in my office. There was someone in my office, counsel, that drew that up.
But that two-pager, as I understand it, regulated what would happen to 50 million rands of your money. You'd put in 50 million rands.
Sorry?
He put in 56, but you said you came up with the money, you put in 50 million too.
No, I said he put up and I had to put up.
Yes, but his was the 56, you had to put up your own 50.
Also 55.
55,
Yeah.
Yes. That two-pager was going to govern what you could and couldn't do with 55 million rands of your money, and what your right of recourse was against Mr. Maumela in respect of 56 million that he'd put in.
Yeah, it was just an agreement saying that we're going to start this venture. This is what we're putting in, and
well, we'd like to see that agreement. Can I ask that you arrange to have a copy of that agreement sent through here? Doesn't have to be right now. But so he had put in 56 million.
correct.
And he said he wanted to pay contractors at his house because he was incurring penalties.
Correct.
And even though you had committed 55 million of your own money for this project, you decided, well, you'd give him that money back.
It's his money, counsel. I could not hold on to that money. It's his money. The man said to me he needs it, and he gave me a commitment that in a couple of months he'd bring it back. To date, he never brought it back. He's still in breach. He didn't bring it back. I continue with the project without him. And now, because of that, I had to put up a wash plant, or I have to outsource washing and crushing, which is costing me more money.
And did you ever investigate why Lutaga was the vehicle that he wanted you to put the money into?
Subsequent to that, I then realized Mr. Maumela's got issues with SARS, and he's got some financial issues.
When did you realize that?
When I started asking him to bring his part of the money back.
And when was that?
That was 25 March, somewhere there, the following year.
Sorry, 20?
I have to just check on the payments. It was after the payments, a couple of months after the payments. Around Feb, March of 2024, Council.
Is it off?
March of 2024.
Yeah.
So you knew in March of 2024 that he had issues with SARS.
Yeah, I saw some stuff in the media. I was just reading some stuff.
What did you see in the media?
I read about preservation order, something to that effect, yeah.
Right. So you knew that he was subject to a preservation order from March 2024? We knew from March 2024 he was subject to a
The
preservation.
following year, I knew that he was in a bit of trouble, yes.
Yes. So did you understand that he was asking for payments to be made to Lutaga because that way he could get around the preservation order?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, then why did you link the two together? Why did you...
He told me it's his sister's account, and he's got the controlling rights on the account, and the money needs to go there.
So he's got control of that account?
That's what he said to me, yes.
And it's his, although it's nominally his sister's.
That's what he said to me, yes.
And so money that was owed to him, or that was his money, could be put in that account and escape the SARS preservation order that way?
I think this was before the SARS preservation order. The money was transferred before.
Sorry, the money was transferred before the SARS preservation order?
The ones in 2023. If I look at it here and I look at the preservation order, yes.
Yes, the 35 million that was transferred on the 12th of December was transferred just in advance of the preservation order. Of course, you didn't know about the preservation order at that
No,
stage.
I saw it now in my books.
But all of the money that Tamiz transferred, on your version, was transferred with full knowledge of the preservation order.
He asked me to transfer the money. I had to transfer the money.
And you knew at the time that he was subject to a preservation order from SARS?
Well, he just said to me, you can transfer it.
No, we've been through this already. You said that he explained to you that Lutaga was his sister's company, but
Yes.
that he could use the money there.
Yes.
And so that so what you were doing in making the 3.25 million payments from Tamiz to Lutaga, and at the very least, was circumventing a preservation order, is it not?
Chair, my learned friend is now going into territory we thought he was going to go into, unless he can demonstrate how this links with the mandate of the Commission these questions are unlawful.
Mr. Chaskelson?
Chair, we are interested in the relationship between Mr. Matlala, Mr. Maumela, and this witness. We're interested in how the proceeds of crime move around between those witnesses. We know that Mr. Matlala, at the very least, had influence over certain people within the SAPS. We know that this witness held himself out as someone who had influence over certain people within the SAPS and indeed over the minister. We know also that Mr. Matlala and Mr. Maumela are alleged to have been involved in widespread tender fraud and corruption at the Tembiso Hospital alongside what we see in this case. We are at the very least entitled to investigate whether what we're looking at here is a criminal syndicate engaged in widespread tender fraud and also exercising influence over members of the SAPS. And that's where these questions go.
Chair, that is precisely the point. What you've not heard at all is that any of these funds came from any irregular or unlawful police contract. In fact, you've heard quite to the contrary. You've had loose statements like proceeds of crime. You've had a statement that Matlala and Maumela were involved in tender frauds in hospitals, and that exactly proves the point that this is beyond the scope of this commission. Our learned friend is asking this. We say it as a fishing expedition, and to try and embarrass this witness through matters that have got nothing to do with this commission. You will be better acquainted with your mandate than I am, and none of this comes within that. It's entirely outside the scope of this inquiry, and if this question or line of questioning is permitted, we submit that the Commission will be acting in a way that's contrary to the rule of law and the principle of legality.
At this stage, I will allow the line of questioning. If perhaps down the line submissions are, it's quite early on in the process, and we would prefer to see how matters unfold. We are not closing the window to the possibility of being addressed down the line as to whether, after it all, the evidence should be allowed in the sense of us being able to use it. But it is too late in the day at this stage for us to close the door. Please continue, Mr. Chaskelson.
Chair, may I just then
Yes.
register that my client is advised that he must answer these questions under protest, and on your assurance that if this is revisited, any answers that he gives will be struck and will be regarded as pro non scriptura.
Yes, if in the end we make that order.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Shaskelson.
The question that you were asked to answer is, do you accept that the payments that were made by Tamiz to Lutaga were payments made to circumvent a SAPS preservation order operating against Mr. Maumela?
SAPS.
Sorry, a SARS preservation order against Mr. Maumela.
Look, I didn't know what was preserved by SARS. I had no idea what was preserved by SARS. Whether the sale was before or after, I was not aware. So when he asked me, I did it. I paid him his money. It was his money.
But your evidence was that he asked you, explaining that his assets were preserved, but that Lutaga was nominally his sister's company, and that you could pay into his sister's company and he would control the funds that went there.
I never said that he told me. He said he has problems with SARS. He never disclosed that he has a preservation order. He said to me he has problems with SARS.
So you weren't aware that there was a preservation order, is your version now?
I only saw the preservation
He said
order
he
from
read
your
in-
file.
He read in the media, he read certain things in the media.
We'll come back to this if we need to. The record will speak for itself in this regard. There are other questions I want to ask you in relation to Mr. Maumela.
Before you move on, Mr. Shaskel, I don't know whether you are still to go back to the 500,000 that was paid to Lutaga.
Yes, we are going to go back
You're
to
going
that.
to come.
We are going to go
All
back
right,
to
let
that.
me wait then, perhaps.
For now, you say you read in the media that Mr. Maumela had problems with SARS.
In March,
March 2024.
yes.
Yes. Did you read in the same media that Mr. Maumela was alleged to have been involved in fraud at Tembisa Hospital and had been investigated by Babita Diekaran shortly before her murder?
Yes, I'm aware.
So you were aware that there were these allegations against,
Yes,
and you were aware of those allegations from March 2024.
yes.
Can we come back to the 500,000 that you pay Lutaga in February 2025?
Yeah, yes.
At this stage, February 2025, you've just been paid the first 1.5 million of 20 million that Mr. Matlala owes you. You're nodding? That's yes.
Yes, yes.
You are anxious that Mr. Matlala is way behind where he should be in paying you.
Yes,
You are aware that there are press reports of a preservation order against Mr. Maumela.
yes,
You are aware that there are press reports linking Mr. Maumela and Mr. Matlala to widespread fraud at Tembisa Hospital.
I was aware of that much, yes, at that time, yes.
You are aware that the same press reports link them to the possible murder of Babita Diekaran,
Yes, they were not charged for that, yes.
but there were press reports
Yes.
raising those allegations, right? Why in those circumstances did you choose to pay 500,000, 1/3 of what your first payment was, to Mr. Maumela?
Like I said, counsel, before, Mr. Matlala put a lot of pressure. He wanted me to pay 750. And once I saw these newspaper articles, I did not want to get into their crosshairs. And when I looked at these articles, I said to Mr. Matlala, it's fine. I can't pay 750. What I'll do is I'll pay 500. I cannot do 750.
Why did you pay anything at all? This man owed you money, large amounts of it.
Yes, but there were more invoices coming, and he promised me that on the next payments, he'd do good and give me a top-up on that. So,
You understood yourself to have an agreement with Mr. Matlala that he would repay you 20 million rands out of invoices
over 3 years.
over 3 years.
Correct.
You were worried that he wasn't doing that.
Yes.
And yet you choose, when you first get paid, to give up a third of your payment.
Yes, because we had another 20 million rand worth of invoices, or he had another 20 million rand of invoices that needed to go in for payment. And he promised to do good on that.
How did you know he had another 20 million rands worth of invoices?
He told me.
And what evidence did he provide in that regard?
He sent me the purchase orders, all these documents that there's a whole lot of purchase orders that were here. That was proof that he had money still outstanding to him.
Those purchase orders, those long, long lists of purchase orders, were sent in April.
Yes, but he had not delivered on them.
He had not delivered on them.
I mean, these are previously to these purchase orders, he had more purchase orders. He had a lot of purchase orders. Mr. Matlala had a lot of purchase orders. Hence, in January, he needed more cash to deliver on those purchase orders.
Which purchase orders had he sent you by February when you chose to pay 500,000 to Mr. Maumela?
It was these that were going to come. He knew these were coming.
He may have known that they were going to come, but he hadn't sent them to you, had he?
No, we spoke about them.
You spoke about them. So Mr. Matlala told you, don't worry, I'm getting more purchase orders.
Yes.
And why did you not say to Mr. Matlala, you can pay Mr. Maumela out of your share of the
I
money
did do
that is
that,
coming?
counsel. I did. I on several occasions told him that he can pay him on his own. He just requested and requested, and he just kept on asking, and then I agreed to do that.
Mr. Carrim, you don't strike me as someone who just lets business partners walk all over him if they request.
Mr. Chesterton, you raised a very important issue. You fingered these two individuals on a murder. You just said that a few minutes ago. So I read this in the media. Yes, I'm a businessman. Yes, I have a family. I have people to protect. I've got kids. At that moment in time, I did not know whether these rumors are true or not.
Well, that's an answer that I can accept, Mr. Carrim. But we'd have saved a lot of time if you had come up and set out with that answer right at the beginning. If your answer is you thought that you might be dealing with a murderer, so you didn't want to say no to him, well, then that's an answer I can accept. Is that your answer?
I'm saying alleged, you know. These stories were in the media. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying I read. So, yes, I was afraid of that.
So you're saying now that in addition to his asking and asking and asking as a reason for paying 500,000 to Mr. Maumela's chosen payee, Mr. Matlala's chosen payee, Mr. Maumela, you also had some misgivings that the media reports may be true and that you may need to say yes to protect yourself and your family.
Yes.
My concern about that answer is that all of these press reports we were talking about had been circulating broadly since April 2024. So why did you go into business with Mr. Matlala in June 2024 if you'd seen all of those reports?
Like I said, it was at the back of my mind. Now, when our own police, South African Police Service, that must be there to protect us, give Mr. Matlala a contract of 360 million rand. Who am I to vet Mr. Matlala when our own police services awarded this man a contract of 360 million? So if he was that dodgy character, why would SAPS then award him a contract for 360 million?
Well, Mr. Carrim, I don't find that answer convincing either, because one of your recurrent refrains here is that Mr. Matlala is constantly looking for people who have connections within the SAPS and within the ministry to exercise influence over his contract.
Chair, I might be mistaken. I don't recall this witness giving that evidence.
Yes, I didn't.